All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about a war that you might not even realize is happening right now. It's not a fight for land or oil. Nope, it's a war for something much, much closer to home: your attention. And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. That's a real quote from a real government official, the UK's Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. That's a pretty serious warning, right? It really sets the stage for what we're about to unpack. So that brings us to the big, kind of shocking question here. Could a drop in how much we read actually be a threat to national security? I know, it sounds a little over the top, doesn't it? But stick with me, because there's a serious argument being made here. Okay, so let's get into this new kind of war. We're going to explore why on earth a politician is talking about reading like it's a battleground. Right, so the key thing to get here is that this is way beyond just worrying about test scores or, kids knowing big words. The UK government is seriously concerned that if people stop reading, the whole country becomes weaker, more vulnerable to its rivals. That's a huge claim. So, to really understand where this fear is coming from, we've got to look at the cold, hard facts. Let's dig into the numbers behind what's being called the reading recession. For generations, books were just part of growing up. They were a given. But then, everything changed. The internet, social media, suddenly books had this new, incredibly powerful competitor for our eyeballs and our time: the digital screen. And wow, the shift has been fast and it's been steep. I mean, think about it. Just 10 years ago, more than half of kids in the UK said they actually liked reading. Today, that number's dropped to just 1 in 3. And the data shows that boys, in particular, are turning away from books at an even faster rate. And just to be clear, this isn't just happening in the UK. A big global survey back in 2019 found that only about 26% of people under 18 read daily, every single day. That is a record low. It's a generational shift that's happening everywhere. So what's going on? Well, it really boils down to how different these two things are. Reading a book, it's like a slow-cooked meal. It takes time, it needs your focus, your curiosity. But digital screens? That's fast food. Information is instant, answers are short, and pretty soon, our patience for anything that takes effort just gets thinner and thinner. Okay, so people are reading less. Why does that matter for national security? Well, this decline in reading creates a very specific, very modern kind of danger. Let's talk about the disinformation threat. Here's the argument in a nutshell. When we don't read books, we're not exercising our critical thinking muscles. And that makes us way more vulnerable. We become easier targets for misinformation because we're just not as practiced at spotting fake news or telling the difference between what's real and what's totally made up. And the UK government isn't just talking in hypotheticals. They're pointing the finger at one adversary in particular: Russia. They're saying Russia is actively exploiting this weakness by pumping out fake headlines and fake stories aimed right at a population that's losing the skills to tell fact from fiction. So, with this threat on the table, what's the plan? How are governments actually trying to fight back? And it's not just a concern in one part of the world. Take a look. In the UK, you've got these community reading drives and big library upgrades. But then you go over to Uttar Pradesh, India's biggest state, and they're making kids read the newspaper for 10 minutes every day in school. The tactics are different, but the goals are exactly the same: get people reading again and build a defense against too much screen time and the lies that spread online. And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? The best way to fight disinformation isn't with more tech, more firewalls. It's with more readers. The idea is that the strongest defense system you can have is a population of smart, critical thinkers who can see through the nonsense. But at the end of the day, this whole thing isn't really about governments and geopolitics. It's about you. It's about your most valuable asset, the one thing you can't get more of: your attention. So, what can you do about it? Because let's be real, governments can start all the programs they want, but they can't make you read. They can't pry your phone from your hands and replace it with a book. That choice, the choice to actually sit down and read, that's all on you. It's a personal decision. I mean, just think about it for a second. Your phone is constantly buzzing. Apps are sending notifications. Your feed is refreshing. All of it is designed to scream and fight for your attention. But a book doesn't do any of that. It just sits there, patiently waiting for you. And that right there is the magic. A book might not fight for your attention, but it will always, always reward it. It gives you something back that a quick scroll or a pop-up notification just can't. It gives you new ways of seeing the world, a deeper understanding. it actually makes your mind stronger. So we'll leave you with this to think about. In this war for your focus, this battle for every second of your day, what does your attention really deserve?